mental preparation is the most important thing for the diet. Get as much information as possible, because information and knowledge is power. If you go in feeling confident, feeling that you know about it, you may still get a little bit nervous about things, but it will make the whole process a lot easier for you. The truth is that it looks more difficult than it actually is. The basics of it is weighing food. And depending on which type of diet you're using will depend on how much of the food you've got to weigh. For the most restrictive of the diets, you'll be weighing every gram of food, you'll be weighing all the ingredients on the plate. For other parts of the diet, you'll only be weighing one part of it. So that really depends, and that's where you'll have discussions with the team. But what I would say is get yourself prepared beforehand.
It's very important that you do prepare mentally for the ketogenic diet, as it does involve quite significant changes in the way that you would normally see food and normally see meals looking. And the key mental change that needs to happen is the thoughts about fat. It's very important that fat is seen as the important key element of ketogenic therapy, and also fat is your friend. You know, fat is a very, very key part of meals.
Well, it may seem like it's going to be unhealthy because we're asking you to eat lots of high-fat foods, so lots of butter, oil, cream. But remember, we're cutting down on your sugars, we're cutting down on the carbohydrate as well. And it's partly just getting used to changing shopping and your cooking habits.
One of the biggest fears that we found over the years for families is that they're frightened of taking away the treats. But actually what we're doing is we're stripping everything back, and we're taking the diet back to basic foods, unprocessed, non-junk food. So you're looking at your proteins, your meats, your vegetables, your fruits, non-processed foods, which in some respects a lot of families end up eating a lot healthier on the ketogenic diet because they're not buying the junk anymore. So if you try and think about it in that way, that actually you're not taking away the treats, you're actually going for a more healthy option of diet with more healthy foods, then it doesn't actually seem so scary.
On a ketogenic diet, we tend to view foods as belonging to one of three macronutrient groups: carbohydrate, protein, or fat. And all the diets are restricted in carbohydrate. On a ketogenic diet, we always avoid all the sugary, refined carbohydrate sources, so no sweet fizzy drinks or sweets, sugar-based foods. In terms of the other types of carbohydrate, the more starchy-based carbohydrates, we usually avoid all things like potatoes, bread, rice, pasta and breakfast cereals because they are very high in carbohydrate. Occasionally small weighed amounts can be added in onto a more liberal carbohydrate regime such as the MCT ketogenic diet. But most carbohydrate sources on one of these ketogenic diets would come from vegetables or fruits, particularly the lower carbohydrate fruits such as berries.
Well, as we know that the ketogenic diets, they're all controlled in terms of their carbohydrate, and protein is something that often is controlled as well, particularly on the classical regime or the MCT regime, where all food items are controlled, and so protein is weighed and measured as well. Now, when we're talking about the more modified regimes, then protein isn't restricted. However, it's generally recommended that you have moderate amounts, not excessive amounts. And so items like meats, fish, eggs, cheese, those sorts of foods are included. They're not necessarily weighed and measured on the modified regimes, but moderation is generally the key. Fats are really important as a basis to any ketogenic regime, as fats are going to be your main source of fuel. It's going to be where the body gets most of its energy from. And so we need to provide that energy and that fuel in food. And so the fats that we require are going to need to come from foods like double cream, vegetable oils, butter, those sorts of foods. And we need generous amounts of fats with each meal and snack. Otherwise, if enough fat isn't provided, there's going to be a tendency for rapid weight loss, and that's not generally the outcome that we're looking for on a ketogenic diet. There are lots and lots of lovely ways that you can include fats in foods. You can make lovely dressings and put them onto salads. You can melt butter onto cooked vegetables. You can make creamy sauces with double cream and cheese. You can make lovely hot chocolates with double cream. There are lots and lots of lovely ways to include fat. And there are also a range of various prescribed products, and it will depend on the regime that you are being prescribed, whether you need prescribed fat supplements as well. But there are whole loads of ways of getting the fat into a ketogenic diet.
Sadly, the diet can panic people that maybe aren't as au fait with cooking as some others. You don't need to be a chef in order to do the ketogenic diet. Don't be too hard on yourself. Take it slowly, take it a day at a time, and maybe give yourself a longer lead into the diet in order to build your own confidence up. But if you've got a saucepan and a couple of eggs and a knob of butter, just stir it around in the pan and cook it as scrambled eggs, and that's your start of your ketogenic meal. And sometimes we've started families that basically and built them up from there.
I think the ketogenic diet, because it involves preparing food in a little bit of a different way, takes a change of thought and change of ideas. And so initially it may seem quite difficult to create meals that look great, but it's important to start simple, start with just a few ideas, and it's incredible how amazing the meals can look, and they can look really, really fabulous. On a ketogenic diet, there are lots of other ways of providing alternatives to your staple foods such as your rice and your breads and your pastas. There are lots of lovely ideas that you can include. When we're talking about things like breads and buns and muffins, then you can use seedy nutty flours, such as almond flour and things like that, to make alternatives to bread and lovely muffins. When we're talking about things like potato, then we've got items like celeriac, which is an alternative root vegetable which is lower in carbohydrate, and that can be chipped, or it can be chopped and roasted, or it can be mashed, and that can be a lovely alternative to potato that's lower in carbohydrate. We're talking about things like pasta, then there are now quite a wide range of low carbohydrate pasta alternatives. Again, you need to check their content, but they can be a real lifesaver. They can really help out with meals. And then when we're talking about rice, then the cauliflower can come into play there. And it's a lovely idea just to grate cauliflower down and then fry it or saute it in butter. And that can provide a nice texture that's almost a little bit like rice. And that's a lovely alternative. So when you're starting out on a ketogenic diet, the key bit of equipment you generally need is a set of weighing scales that weighs in grams, and that is the key thing. Other things that you might find helpful to get hold of are maybe some smaller pans if you're going to be cooking in smaller quantities, particularly if you've got a child maybe on a classical ketogenic diet. You may want to cook in smaller amounts, so little pans can be helpful. Also maybe some nice plastic spatulas so you can scrape the food out and make sure you've got every little bit of fat and item off the pan onto the plate. And then again, you may want to cook in batches. And if you're making smaller amounts for an individual, then cooking in batches can make it a lot easier. And so you might want to have small little plastic boxes so you can store those in the fridge or store them in the freezer. Or again, packed boxes that you can take out if you're going to take a meal out. They can all be really, really helpful. Also maybe little plastic clip freezer bags. Anything that can help in preparation and storage so that when you're needing a meal, you can just pop something out of the fridge or the freezer.
very important when you're considering a ketogenic diet to be realistic about your expectations. For some families, nothing less than having a completely seizure-free child, medication-free child living a normal life will be their success or their measurement of success. For some of us though that have got children that maybe have got specific syndromes such as Dravet syndrome or Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, then sometimes achieving that may be a little bit more difficult. What we can hope for is the best quality of life possible with as few seizures as possible with the least amount of treatment. And that's the same for any treatment for somebody with epilepsy.
Charlie's now off all his medication. He's doing very well at school. Developmentally, he's caught up a lot with his peers.
He's reading again, his
Reading
writing's coming on. All his schoolwork is now progressing at the sort of level that we'd hoped for his age. This diet has come along, Matthew's friends have come along with it, and it's freed up Charlie's life again.
It may seem like a lot to take in at first, and it may seem daunting, but remember you're not alone. Your keto team is here to help you and help you every step of the way.
So be realistic at what you're looking for. Make sure that you take everything into consideration, not only the seizure reduction, but quality of life as well. And, hopefully you'll get more than you bargained for on the diet.